We're ending this season on a very Nigerian note. And to bring it home with me is Chef Eros of Eros restaurant in the heart of Lekki. I visited him at the restaurant for some deep convo about all that's good about Nigerian food.
Hi.
Chef Eros.
Good to see you.
Mwah. Thank you so much.
Please sit down. Welcome to Eros.
Welcome to Food Journey.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for having us. So the name Eros.
Yes.
Can you tell me what that actually means?
Eros means house of Eros.
Uh-huh. Are you aware that Eros has something to do with Greek mythology?
I do. I'm aware.
Okay, so was that sort of a clever way of fitting that in Yoruba and Greek mythology?
Not actually, because I already had the name Eros before I found out about the Greek mythology part of it, because my family's name is actually Irububu, which means everybody. And the short form of Irububu is Eros. So across my family, a lot of people have been going by Eros before even I knew what Greek mythology was. So and my auntie had a cafeteria called Eros Foods. You know, there's Eros Photography, there's Eros Hotel, all different like arms of the Eros family.
My goodness, that's very clever. So it's really worked in. Almost sort of reflects a little bit about your name as well. That's fantastic. So tell me, the first question I want to ask you of a lot of questions is, can you describe to me what you really think the African palate is?
So unknown to the African man, their palate is actually a mix of sweet, spicy, and bitter. You'll find that across our food, we tend to use a lot of onions in cooking, mostly blended in, and that gives every dish a sweet element. So same with tomatoes, right? And then in certain regions, especially in the southeastern parts, you know, and then the southwestern part, you find a lot of usage of otazi, bitter leaf, you know, but it's balanced out with spicy flavors, sweet flavors. So I would say that the Nigerian palate is very mix of sweet, spicy, and bitter.
I totally agree with that. Everything, including that umami flavor that we get from a lot of our
yes, and that as well,
meats.
actually, the umami is definitely a part of our palate. You get it actually with things like locust beans,
Iru, beautiful,
Yes.
and then that's dawa dawa.
Exactly.
There's so many different sort of applications of that and the way it's formed. And also, of course, with the things that are pungent like crayfish.
Yes.
You know, and I love that part. And I particularly actually like the bitterness in our food as well.
Especially when balanced properly, you know?
Yes. I've got a lot of questions for you
Okay,
today.
let's
So
get cracking.
Let's get cracking. So now, you have a platform to present your food in your own powerful and particular way. You literally speak to people with the food that you present. Do you kind of feel that responsibility? And what are you actually trying to say with the dishes that you create?
So yes, there is a sense of responsibility in the fact that I've been bestowed with a gift, right? The gift of cooking. Some people can sing, some people can act, I can cook. And because I have that gift, it's my own language and sort of how I communicate with the world. And what I'm always telling the world is, hey, Africa matters. Africa is important. Africa is the motherland. Africa has a lot of flavors, has a lot to bring to the table. Africa is rich, is diverse, is full of flavor, you know? And so that's what I'm constantly sort of pushing, communicating to the world, you know, what African flavor profile is, and just sort of doing my little bit to reinvent and recreate African food, because there has been, especially in the western part of Africa, Nigeria, there has been sort of like stagnation in the growth of our food development in terms of how the recipes are created. And so what we're constantly trying to do is sort of communicate a new age of cuisine, of cooking.
The minute you walk into Eros, it has that contemporary New York apartment feel with lovely art, seating, and an atmosphere full of promise. The food is that pleasant surprise that you've always wanted. Food that shows passion, creativity, and intelligence. Here's another question that's sort of a sub-question to that answer. Do you think that we Nigerians need to learn what we're supposed to actually be tasting in our food? Or are we just like, oh, this is a pho, oh, this is a goosey, and I'm just going to eat it because I know what I expect to generally taste?
Yes, I agree. I think that we definitely need to educate our palate a little more, not just on the taste, but the nutritional value in our food. A lot of our food is very organic and it contains a lot of nutrients. And in the process of cooking, half the time we destroy the nutrients. And so I think education will go a long way in influencing how we cook and how we take our natural ingredients and put them on a plate. At Eros, for example, we're constantly paying attention to how we prepare each dish in such a way that it retains its natural ingredient, its natural nutrients, and it's also full of flavor. And we're constantly telling people how the food is cooked and what flavors to expect.
I love that. And I noticed outside that you have a herb garden,
Yes.
which is just brilliant. The wall herb garden, and then what you've got there, you've got sage, you've got basil, you've got parsley. You had something on the lower level that kind of looked like strawberries.
No. It has a bulb on it. And that bulb is it's electric daisy. That's what it's called.
Oh my goodness.
Electric daisy. And it basically has a shocking effect in your mouth, and so we use that to make some cocktails.
I love that. So you get that little mouthfeel. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So my next question to you is, of course, there's an artistry that comes with the way you present your dishes. And for me, the first thing that the person who's going to eat experiences is what they visually see.
Yes.
That's so crucial,
Very
apart
crucial.
from the taste of the food. Now, my question is, do you think that the average Nigerian or the Nigerian who actually knows a lot about food, who considers themselves a foodie, feels that if we're presenting our food in such a way, in an artsy way, that we're taking away from what we traditionally expect to see when you order a Nigerian meal?
So, how do I answer that question now? The truth is that people feel that way, especially when what they've tried in the past has been done incorrectly.
Right.
But then when they come to somewhere like Eros and they try it, we have retained the authenticity of the flavor. So in trying to redefine or reinvent the way it's presented, we haven't lost the authenticity. And that's why we say that Eros is an authentic Nigerian restaurant with a modern twist, not a fusion restaurant. So what tends to happen with fusion is that you fuse cuisines from two parts of the world.
That's right.
And,
we try to bring them
and
together.
we try to bring them together. They may work, but it, in most cases, would have lost its authenticity, the original flavor that people expect to taste.
So there are a lot of beautiful things to be chosen from as far as produce is concerned here. Fresh produce. I've been to so many local farms and seen things that are just pristine and beautiful. In fact, I like buying things straight from the farm. And you specialize in telling ingredients to reveal different sides of themselves, which I think is just thrilling. What has been one of your most exciting discoveries about a mundane, I won't call any ingredient mundane, but a familiar vegetable or fruit or protein?
Cassava, actually.
Okay.
So there's a lot that we have done with cassava and continue to do with cassava, and I'm finding more. As a matter of fact, yesterday we made a cassava crisp. And it's made just like starch, the way the southern people make starch, where they take the cassava, they grate the cassava, wash it and squeeze it out, and the water itself that's retained contains a lot of starch. And then it's mixed with water, a little bit of palm oil, and then it's put on a pan, and it's basically mixed until it heats, and then as it heats, it forms into this really glutinous body, right?
And it's yellowish.
It's yellowish from the palm oil.
I've never been able
to eat it.
Stomach that.
Yes.
For some reason.
So, and that's because of it's very starchy. Like it pulls. And so what we did with that same starch, right, is we took two pieces of parchment paper, right? We put the starch inside, put the other piece of parchment paper, and rolled it out really thin. And then we took a baking sheet, we put that on the baking sheet and covered it with the other another baking sheet, like compressed it and put it into the oven. And when it came out as a beautiful crisp. Now that you can stomach, because we take that crisp and we top it with the same banga, right? And put the same proteins that you would find in it, and you put it in your mouth, and it's the exact same thing as the starch and banga. Now acceptable to the white man.
Oh, I love that.
You know,
okay.
the same cassava, as gari comes in the small grains, there's also the long sticks. They're like grated cassava, right? And it's usually dried, just like the gari is dried. And the Igbo people would soak it with water, and they will make the abacha, the salad.
That's right.
The local salad, right?
Grated.
Yeah. And so what we've done with that as well is that we've pickled it.
Oh.
And we've given it a fresh flavor profile, right? That when combined with the palm oil, which is now in our own case, our local salad dressing.
So how do you even begin to turn food on its head? I reckon the formula looks a bit like this. Great produce, plus out-of-the-box thinking, over creativity, plus expected taste, times expected visual, divided by trial and error, equals beautiful results. So Chef Eros, here's a question. When did you know that you wanted to become a chef and actually take it as far as you have taken it into this entrepreneurial stage of having your own restaurant?
That's usually a difficult question for me to answer because I can't tell you exactly when it happened. Being a chef just happened organically. I started off actually at the bar.
Oh.
Yeah. So my first job in uni in the UK was a bartender. And behind the bar, just like here, was the kitchen. And I was always so fascinated by everything that was going on in the kitchen. And so I kept going into the kitchen until one day my supervisor was like, you know what, stay in the kitchen. And that's how I got moved into the kitchen. And obviously you start from the ground up washing dishes, you know, and then
peeling
potatoes and onions and all of that. And I did that for quite a while. I still did a bit of waiting of tables, you know. So I was like a all-rounder, you know. I did a bit of work at the bar, a bit of work on the floor, and then a bit of work in the kitchen before I moved back to Nigeria. I studied international business management, and my mom asked me to help her write a business plan for a restaurant. And that's how I moved back to Nigeria to help her implement this business plan that we have created for the restaurant.
That's incredible.
And I haven't looked back since. At the time, I wasn't a chef. I became a chef over time. So I didn't go to culinary school, but I taught myself and I took certain classes. And speaking of the drinks, here they are.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
This is very interesting. So having the business side of this entrepreneurial journey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This looks amazing, is important.
Yes.
You know, because a lot of people who want to go into the restaurant business could be chefs, yes, but then don't have the business side. And I think that's really essential. I love the fact that you're actually not you haven't gone to culinary school, because I think there's sort of sometimes a little snobbishness behind, you know, I went to such and such institution.
Yeah. I don't have that. So unfortunately,
and
I have a lot to prove, you know?
Well, that's okay. I think you're doing very well, you know? And I personally call myself a TV chef. You know, people may say, but you haven't been to culinary school. I don't care. You know, what we're doing is good. And as long as we're making people happy and we're doing it in our own way, I think, yes, chefs.
Yes.
Found it out. All right, so let's try these. What do we have here?
So you're having the ayaruban.
I saw that on the menu, and this has tiger nut and ginger and tangerine.
Tiger nut, ginger, tangerine, and cinnamon ribbon.
My goodness.
It's good, isn't it?
Absolutely defined.
It's inspired by the northern part of Nigeria.
I figured so, that tiger nut thing.
Yeah, so it's very similar to kunu aya. Kunu aya is made from tiger nut as well. So it's tiger nut and coconut, coconut milk. So that's what that is. And then this is called the Roselle. And Roselle is another name for zobo.
Hibiscus.
So yes, so this is a zobo cocktail that contains ginger, Also contains tangerine. Tangerine is actually locally grown and very easy to find. So we play with that quite often. So it contains ginger, tangerine, molasses, and zobo, the zobo reduction.
I'm dying to taste yours. Of course, everybody knows me. Gotta have my big mouth on everything. So cheers. Here we go. Oh, I love that. It's got a beautiful kick to it. I can taste that ginger in there. Very nice, very nice. You better watch that drink. I might drink it. I know tonight you are having a taste testing or a tasting menu for the public.
We're doing both. We're having a tasting menu and we're doing a taste testing of two different menus.
All right.
Yeah.
And tell me, do you feel that that is an essential part of your entrepreneurial startup here for the restaurant, to have things like that?
Yes, it definitely is. It's one thing that sets us apart from any restaurant in the country. Aside from the fact that we're the only restaurant that currently does a tasting menu, we're also the only restaurant that does a tasting Nigerian menu. So all the ingredients, all the recipes are authentic Nigerian recipes that have just been refined. It's almost like a group of foodies that can say,
here's a food.
that can say, oh, I feel like this could be a little more this, or it's not as authentic as it should be. And I mean, I'm from Lagos, partly from Edo and partly from Calabar. So I kind of cross.
Here we go.
Yeah. So I kind of go across. But I know Yoruba food more than I know any other. So I always need somebody from that region to taste it and give me a thumbs up on it.
That's perfect. And of course, you know, as a chef, you need to be able to take criticism. You know, how does it feel when somebody says to you, I'm not so sure about that?
Love that.
Really?
Love that, because then I have work to do.
Yes.
If you say you love it, then if everyone likes everything and there's nothing to do, I get bored.
Yeah.
But you tell me that there's something you don't like about it, I'm gonna have to fix it.
And you never want to get complacent.
Exactly.
Chef Eros, it's been great talking to you. I'm very excited because I know that you got me coming into the kitchen shortly, and I am dying to see what you do behind the scenes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
As promised, we get to experience what it's like behind the scenes in the kitchen. It's a hub of activity, organized energy, if you will, as each sous chef carries out their particular duties. Some at the stove, and others putting together exotic specialized treats, like these chocolates, for instance. What's constant is our chef, who's everywhere, giving direction and more guidance, hands-on, tasting. And the artistry we've spoken about coming together on the plate.
Hey, hiya, good to see you again.
Busy.
Yep, it's a busy weekend. I'm going to show you how we put together one of the dishes on our new chef tasting menu, the starch and banga, and we're making that with catfish. So this is catfish that has been filleted, so no bones, and it's also been skinned.
Right.
All right, but we've kept the skin aside for future use.
Okay, let's have a look in that bowl. Great.
All right, so in this bowl I have a mix of spices. So we have our own fish spice that we put together, and then we just put a little bit of olive oil in it. So I'm just going to use that to lightly season this fish, because we want to keep the natural flavors of the fish in as possible.
It's glossy.
So I'm just going to coat it in there.
Love your tweezers. Essential in the kitchen. So what's the next stage?
So next stage is to set this in the fridge for a few minutes to rest, and I'll grab another one and we'll start frying immediately. All right, to the fridge. All right, and then bring it back and continue. Okay. All right, so while that's going to be frying, I'm going to start putting together the dish.
Okay, great. What do we have here?
So we have the elements of the dish. We have banga,
Right.
palm soup,
Right.
owo,
Let's look at this.
and then we also have cassava. And this is cassava that is soaking in palm oil water. It's just slightly salted, you know, and that's also going to be going on that fish.
Great.
Okay, how's the starch? All right, lift it up so I can see.
Okay.
All right, and that's the beautiful starch crisp, as you can see. Look at that. You have to be careful so it doesn't.
You can see through it.
Yeah.
It's wafer thin.
So I'm just taking that off. Okay. And that's it, as you can see. So that's the starch. Thank you. All right, so.
Very delicate.
That's all I really need.
The catfish fillets are seared. And just look at that flame. Wow, look at that. Chef Eros now removes the cassava, which has been soaking in the palm oil marinade. You get some of the palm oil too.
Just like that.
Great.
Put it in there.
Wow.
All right, so to build up now, I'm gonna grab my
Banga.
banga. I'm gonna spoon on the banga.
So it's kind of making like a little bed.
Exactly.
Okay, there's that beautiful fish.
Beautiful fish. Just gonna,
It's soft and delicate,
yeah,
the catfish.
yeah. So I'm gonna that down there. Just like that. And then the owo.
Now, for those who don't know, owo is
So it's a Delton soup, also from that south region, and it predominantly has the same sort of elements of the banga. I
Right.
have the cassava, so I'm now going to take on the cassava, and I'm just going to place it nicely
that on.
over that.
gorgeous.
Yep.
So this is a real deconstruction that you were talking about.
And then to finish it up, I'm going to top it with the starch. And then I'm going to finish it up with, this is the skin
Crispy
of,
fish skin.
yes, crispy fish skin. Just gonna lean that on.
You know I have to try this.
Yep. And to garnish,
Gorgeous.
banga and starch. Guys.
Banga and starch. I love this. You know, I'm very, very curious about how that tastes. I don't want to destroy this yet, but can I taste one of those little crispy
Sure.
fish skins? Just to...
Can you get a fork and knife, please?
You know what this reminds me of? Eating pork rinds. It actually tastes like that. It is so full of flavor, my God.
Want to taste?
I do. I want to double taste this. And can you show me what must I do?
Crack in. Just break in that starch. There we go.
There we go. Made a bit of a mess, but
Let's go.
here we go. This is super exciting, uber exciting. I want to make sure I get a little of everything into the mouth. My goodness, that smoky but peppery feel. I haven't finished it, so I have to try some of the cassava. Let me see, there's no pretty way to do this. Just let me get that in there. Delicious. And then some more of that fish. It was just too good. Too good. Here we go. I think I managed to get
So what I like to
almost
do is I
every
use
element.
the fish to sort of mop around and pick everything as much as I can.
Well, Chef, I have to tell you, this is absolutely incredible. It's everything that we spoke about during the interview, and I'm hungry for more of this, so I'm going to come back to the restaurant. I suggest everybody else do the same. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Mwah. Should we say goodbye from Food Journey?
All right.
Bye-bye, everybody. I'm going to eat this now. See you next time.